There are a number of notable restaurants serving hot chicken in Nashville, but Hattie Bs might be the most famous and certainly is regarded as one of the best. I love fried chicken and I definitely enjoy hot chicken, so I had to give Hattie Bs a try. It's a beautiful autumn day here in Nashville, Tennessee. Right now I'm at Centennial Park just doing a little exploring, and I got to see, believe it or not, a replica of the Parthenon. Yeah, it wasn't something I expected to see here on my trip, but it's really cool. And inside there's this massive gold statue of Athena. It's definitely a must-see. But one thing that I was actually planning on seeing and eating is the legendary hot chicken Nashville is famous for. I went to one of the most iconic restaurants for it in this city, the original Hattie Bs. In normal circumstances, I would probably rush straight towards hot chicken, but because I had that marathon to contend with, there are certain foods that just wouldn't be a good idea to eat. And that specifically includes spicy foods. With the marathon on the horizon, I just couldn't risk playing that game of having fiery food in my stomach or taking a gamble on a toilet roulette. But with the marathon out of the way, I was able to relax and enjoy a delicious lunch at the original Hattie Bs. When it comes to Hattie Bs in Nashville, there are multiple locations. The one on Broadway is very popular and is likely the most accessible for tourists. However, I have a penchant for visiting the first location of restaurants that have expanded to multiple outposts, so I set out for the original Hattie Bs in the Midtown neighborhood of Nashville. The restaurant is over a mile away from the Broadway establishment, but I figured the walk would give me a chance to see some new sights of the city. Now, it wasn't the most scenic journey and my legs were a bit tired from the previous day's marathon, but I'll go to any length for good food. I arrived to the restaurant for lunch about 15 minutes after it opened on a Sunday and got in line. Hattie Bs got its start when Nick Bishop Sr. tried to retire after spending decades in the food and hospitality industry. However, retirement didn't suit him and he later opened the restaurant Bishop's Meat and Three in Franklin, Tennessee. Nick Jr. soon joined his dad working at the restaurant and the pair introduced hot chicken to the menu and it was a hit. This sparked the idea for a hot chicken restaurant and the result was Hattie Bs, which opened in 2012. Today, the restaurant has not only expanded across Nashville, but to other cities and states from Dallas to Vegas. Simply put, I was hyped, but sadly the line didn't move very fast, which was surprising since it didn't seem like there were a lot of people there. At least the wait gave me a chance to truly ponder and assess the menu. Obviously I was getting chicken, but Hattie Bs offers the bird in a variety of ways, from white and dark meat to sandwiches and tenders. I then had to consider the heat intensity, which ranged from southern, which provides no spice, to the maximum shut the cluck up level. Finally, I made it inside where I was able to place my order. While there were seats in Hattie Bs, I decided to sit outside on the restaurant's patio, which was far more spacious. I was given a number and all I had to do was wait for my food. At last, my lunch arrived and it looked spectacular. I got the half chicken, which included 2 sides and only set me back about $15, which I thought was a great deal. I had to try the chicken first. I waited so long to enjoy true Nashville hot chicken in the city itself, and it was time to realize that desire. My first bite was hot, and I mean that in regards to its temperature. It was clear that the chicken was nice and fresh. The meat was tender and juicy, and the skin had a good crisp to it, but it was the spice that made the chicken special. As far as the heat level, and since it was my first time, I thought it best to go with the standard hot. Plus, I had a dinner reservation for later that day at Sean Brock's flagship restaurant, Audrey, and I didn't think it was the best idea to put the lining of my stomach to the test with such an epic meal on the horizon. For me, however, the hot heat level was perfect. It had enough spice to ensure that I was consistently reaching for my glass of water, but was still at a manageable level. Plus, it was a very flavorful and savory spice that really enhanced some already truly fine fried chicken. It was also a little messy as the spice really coated my fingers as I ate. Thankfully, there's a roll of paper towels on every table, which I definitely made use of. All around, it was fantastic chicken, from the light meat to the dark meat, but it was my sides that helped round out the meal. The first side I tried were the crinkle cut fries, which proved to be pretty satisfying. They had a good flavor, were nicely salted, and I loved the crinkle cut texture. Yeah, fried chicken and fries is a solid combo. For my second side dish, I chose the bacon cheddar grits. I found the grits to be decent, the flavor was pretty nice, and they had a good texture. Although, I wish that they were a bit cheesier, not to mention that more bacon would have been nice too. Overall, it was still a decent side dish. Normally, however, I probably would have gravitated towards getting the mac and cheese as opposed to the grits, but since I just had mac and cheese the other day at Martin's barbecue joint and the Silver Sands Cafe, I thought that it would be good to try something else. Really, I just wish I had the time to try every side. In summation, I loved my hot chicken from Hattie Bs, plus the two sides made it even more of an enjoyable meal. One other thing is that I have to mention the service. Everyone was so nice. Even though Hattie Bs is a counter service establishment and interactions with the staff are obviously not as common as a table service restaurant, the interactions I did have were very positive.
Tastes pretty good? Not too hot for you?
Oh, it's perfect. Love it. Thank you.
To sum it up, my lunch at Hattie Bs was great, but thankfully it wasn't my last Hattie Bs experience in Nashville. The next day, when I was at the airport to fly back to New York, I saw that there was a Hattie Bs in the terminal. Since I needed to eat dinner, I thought that it would be perfect. Now, you can't expect much from an airport restaurant, and compared to the Hattie Bs outside of the airport, they're in a completely different league. Still, I needed to eat something, and Hattie Bs looked a hell of a lot better than a lot of the other dining options in the airport. As expected, the menu was heavily reduced, but I was still intrigued. This time, I got the tenders, and I really enjoyed them. There were 3 tenders with an order. They felt fresh, were nice and juicy, and had a good flavor and crisp. As far as the spice level, I went with the medium this time since I wanted to see how much the heat varied with each level. The chicken still had a satisfying spice, but didn't contain that slightly pleasurable pain which I experienced the previous day at Hattie B's with my chicken at the hot heat level. For a side, there were only 2 offered at the airport, and since I had the fries yesterday, I ordered the creamy coleslaw. To me, coleslaw isn't the most exciting side dish, but I thought that Hattie B's example was pretty good. It had great texture and a nice soothing flavor, which I imagine would be very refreshing if one was consuming chicken at the more intense heat levels. And speaking of refreshing, the restaurant, for some reason that I'm not sure of, couldn't give me tap water to drink, but was able to give me a cup full of ice. Now, I could have just filled the cup from one of the many water fountains in the terminal, but when a seat opened up at the counter, I took it since I thought it'd be easier to enjoy my dinner on a table rather than awkwardly balance everything on my lap at one of the seats by the gate. Drinking from a cup of ice was a bit frustrating, but really that was my only complaint, and even though it was an airport restaurant, I enjoyed it. Overall, both my meals at Hattie B's were wonderful. So that was a good, tasty, and satisfying lunch. That definitely scratched my Nashville hot chicken urge. Hattie B's certainly lived up to the hype for me. I mean, the chicken was great, and I really loved the sides too. I mean, you really can't come to Nashville without having hot chicken. Although I guess if you're a vegetarian or vegan, you might not want to have that. But for me, I've always wanted to go to Hattie B's, and to go to the original establishment is pretty special to me. Not to mention, I also like the prices. I know this is not New York City, but to me, just having a nice full lunch for under 15 bucks is such a good deal these days. During my next visit to Nashville, I really want to visit Prince's Hot Chicken, the original establishment, and really be able to compare the two from Prince's to Hattie B's. And of course, I want to see some of the other restaurants as well, because there's not just 2 places in Nashville that offer hot chicken. But yeah, there's only so much I can eat on one trip, unfortunately. However, I'm really happy that I at least got to try the original Hattie B's and enjoyed some really glorious, spicy, crispy, fresh, and juicy hot chicken. I loved it. Hattie B's certainly lives up to the hype.